The envelope was manila, which struck Helen as odd afterward. 14 years, and they'd used a manila envelope, the kind you'd use to return someone's parking validation. Richard slid it across the glass desk with both hands, which she understood was meant to look respectful. He had prepared remarks. She could tell by the way he breathed before he started, the small, steadying inhale of a man who has rehearsed. "This is a business decision," he said. "It reflects the restructuring, not your performance." Helen looked at the envelope. She did not pick it up. "We've included 6 weeks of severance, which exceeds the standard." "I understand," she said. She picked up the envelope then, because leaving it on the desk felt like a gesture she didn't have the energy to make. She folded it once and put it in her coat pocket and stood up, because there was nothing left in the chair for her. Patrick was the security guard who walked her to the elevator. He had worked the building for 6 years. His daughter had started middle school in September, and Helen had asked about it twice since then and remembered the daughter's name, which was Brianna. Patrick did not speak during the walk. He held the elevator with one hand and looked at the floor numbers as they descended. And Helen watched his profile and thought about how much of a workplace is made of people like Patrick, people adjacent to power, asked occasionally to be its instrument, too decent for the role and too practical to refuse it. The lobby was dressed for Christmas. A tree near the entrance, white lights, tasteful. The revolving door pushed her out into December air that was sharp and immediate and indifferent to the occasion. She walked to her car. She sat in it for 4 minutes without starting it. Then she drove home. The contracts had been her idea 6 years ago, and she wanted to be honest with herself about why. Because the reason mattered, and the reason was not what it would later appear to be. She had inherited a client portfolio in disarray. 3 account managers had left in the same year, and the files were a tangle of unsigned amendments and informal understandings that existed only in email chains nobody had organized. Helen had spent 4 months systematizing it. Part of that work involved restructuring the contract language so that each agreement had a named relationship manager, a single point of institutional accountability. She had put her own name on every account she managed. Not as a power move, as tidiness, the same impulse that made her label the folders in the supply closet when nobody asked her to. She had not thought about it again until Christmas Eve, sitting in her apartment with her coat still on, the manila envelope on the kitchen table, 11 active clients, 6 years of agreements. Her name, in each one, as the named relationship manager, a designation that, in standard industry contract language, carried specific implications about continuity and client rights in the event of personnel changes. She made tea. She sat at the table. She thought about it with the careful, lateral attention of someone who has had a shock and is waiting for their mind to come back online fully before drawing conclusions. By 9 o'clock, her mind was back. She did not contact the clients. She was clear with herself about that boundary, and she held it. The calls came anyway. Harmon Group was first, 8 days into January. Then Peller & Associates. Then a smaller account, Marsh Collective, whose founder called her personal cell on a Tuesday morning and asked, without preamble, what had happened and where she'd landed. She told them she was exploring options. She was warm and she was careful, and she did not say anything about Richard, or the envelope, or the glass desk. What she understood, by the third call, was that the transition had been handled badly. New contacts assigned without introduction. Emails that felt templated. The specific clumsiness of a company that had removed a person without understanding what that person held. The call from Richard's new VP of Accounts came on a Wednesday. His name was Stephen, and he had the slightly over-formal manner of someone making a call he had been told to make and did not entirely want to make and did not entirely want to make. Harmon Group had invoked the contract language. They were requesting a continuity meeting and wanted Helen present. Stephen explained this carefully, as though she might not understand the implications, and she let him finish before she spoke. She said she was available to consult as an independent. She gave him the name of her attorney. She told him her consulting rate, which she had researched carefully and set 2 points above market, and she said that all further conversation should go through counsel. Stephen was quiet for a moment. "I'll pass that along," he said. "Thank you," she said, and ended the call. Richard called once, personally, in February. The conversation lasted 6 minutes. He was warmer than he'd been in the glass office, which cost her something she hadn't expected, not because it changed anything, but because warmth, even belated and self-interested warmth, lands somewhere in the body whether you want it to or not. She was polite. She was final. She did not mention Christmas Eve. Some things she had decided to keep for herself, not as wounds, but as information, the kind you file away not to use but simply to carry accurately. By summer she had free clients, a monthly office lease on the 4th floor of a building with good light, and a tiredness that felt different from the 14-year kind. Cleaner, more honestly earned. She was not where she had planned to be. She was somewhere less certain and more hers, which was not the same as better, not yet, but was at least a place she had chosen. Some mornings that felt like enough. Some mornings it didn't. She had stopped needing it to be one or the other, which was, she suspected, its own kind of answer.